All right. This evening, for our Kickstarter interview, we're going to be talking to the guys from Corridor Publishing. They're running a Kickstarter currently. There's about a week left to go. And the thing about this Kickstarter that caught my attention, made me want to find out more about it, was two of the people that I have met through the Comic Geek Speak community. Rafer Roberts and Dave Wachter are involved. So I definitely wanted to make sure that they were supported, and Christian and Dave were kind enough to come on and talk about the Kickstarter. So let me just go ahead and bring them in, and we'll find more about this project. Hi, guys.
Hey, Chad.
Hey.
How are you guys doing this morning?
Yeah, maybe if you're in England. I am doing great. It's early evening for us. I think it's later evening for you, right? You're on the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast, so it's early evening.
We live in Portland, Comics Town, USA, so sun's starting to go down right now.
Yeah, it is. It just turned pretty much dark within the last like 10 minutes. So
well, it gets darker around here at 4:30 these days.
Oh yeah, right. I grew up in New England. I was born there, so that's what I'm used to. I didn't move out of that region until I was in my late 20s.
So before we start talking about the Kickstarter, which I'm very interested in, because as you heard, I know two of the creators that are involved. How did the two of you get involved in comics? Do you remember the first one that read, or maybe the one that kind of caught your attention and made you want to check out more?
Yeah, I mean, I am. I think of the two of us, I'm probably the one who's really steeped in comics. But I certainly remember down to the issue, maybe not the number, but for me, it was the run of classic X-Men when they were reprinting Uncanny X-Men issues that Claremont and Byrne did together. I got the storyline where the X-Men fight Proteus on Muir Island when I was like 7, and that I've just been hooked ever since. Yeah.
For me, I think the one that really snagged me was The Cabinet by Christian Sager.
Oh, really?
No, I'm kidding. Although that is a really good book. I think the first one that I remember, oh my gosh, I remember I was a big fan of, as a child from the 80s, a big fan of the cartoon G.I. Joe. And I walked into the grocery store and there was an issue of G.I. Joe comics where someone was about to shoot Cobra Commander, and I was like, what? They're gonna murder him? And I was like, I have got to read this. So that was pretty much my like doorway in. And then not long after that, I found my way to Rom the Space Knight, and that was like officially like I think for me anyway, that was like the true entry was Rom the Space Knight. I love Rom.
So tell me a little bit about Corridor Publishing and Corridor Magazine. Is this a new venture that you guys have started?
Yeah, so the idea is that we want to do a magazine, and the publishing schedule of that magazine is going to depend on how successful our initial Kickstarter is for the project. Right now, we're kickstarting the first issue, and we've got the slate of artists and creators involved for that. But really, I think what makes this magazine different from any other anthologies that you would see out there is that it's not just comics. It's specifically a mix of comics, prose, and fine art, but all around the themes of horror blended with science fiction and fantasy. So we're going to have short stories by people who usually write comics, and there will be spot illustrations in there by artists. Some of them are comics artists, some of them aren't. Dave Wachter, as you mentioned, did the cover for us. And so we're really trying to do like a multidisciplinary print project for horror, because those worlds don't really come together very often in the same pages. And the other thing that I think is different about this project is that we're really aiming to support the rights of our contributors. And so it's really important to us that they get paid fair page rates and that they retain ownership over the creations that they put in the magazine.
Did you want to add anything more, Dave, or is that?
I mean, at this point, we've got it like the whole thing is like just this really succinct paragraph, and Christian did a fantastic job of basically just like laying it out. That's
Okay.
He's 100% right. I mean, we just wanted to. We're both fans of the genre of both horror and science fiction, and wanted to just find a place where they could possibly live together, and also just like you said, I mean. You don't ever get to read or pick up something that has like comics and prose and just fine art all involved, and or at least rarely, you do. And we thought it'd be kind of cool to, I don't know, give it a shot. There's a pandemic happening. We aren't doing a whole lot of other things. Might as well try something new. So
Yeah. So what other creators are involved? I mean, I know I mentioned Rafer Roberts and Dave Wachter, because those are the, like I said, those are the two names that kind of jumped out at me. Who else is contributing, and how did you go about getting people to help contribute stuff?
So I'm doing most of the editorial work and planning for the magazine. And I'd say our lineup for the first issue is about 50-50 people that I've either worked with before in comics or I'm just personal friends with. And 50% are like creators that I admired their work and wanted to see if we could get them to work with us on this. So as you mentioned, Dave and Rafer are both in it. Those are guys that I've known in the comics community for over a decade now. I've shared a lot of hotel rooms with those two guys and done a lot of conventions with them. So I know them very well. They're at the top of my list. We've also got Karina Becco, who you might be familiar with from comics. She's actually going to do a short story for us. We've got writers like Nadia Bulkin and Christy DeMeester, who are also going to do short stories for us. Brandon Daniels is a comics creator that'll be in there. J.M. Dragunis is comics adjacent. He mainly does illustrations, like really fine print work, like insanely detailed line work. Marie Enger, Ray Fox, they're comics creators. Dave Jordan, Jonathan LaMancha. Ed Grabianowski and Eilish Phillips are going to do essays for us. Robert Lamb is a short story writer and a podcast host of Stuff to Blow Your Mind, and he's going to do a horror story for us in there. Some other comics folks are Ryan Lee, Brian Level, Matt Sheehan and Malachi Ward, and Kate Sharon. And then we've also got illustration from Maria Nien and Scarecrow Oven. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but he's like another guy who does like illustration and comics, and he primarily specializes in like really gonzo horror stuff. I think that's everybody.
Nice. I think so. I was looking at the list while you were listing them out, but I think that's everyone.
So how do you know Dave and Rafer?
Through the Comic Geek Speak Community. It's I know Dave that lives in Pennsylvania, and Rafer, I believe, lives in not Massachusetts, Maryland, and I've met them at cons, and I have a 2 or 3 let's see, 4 pieces of original art by Dave. So
oh, cool.
Yeah. He did one of the ones. Funny story. One of the commissions I got from him, my theme I'd like to do is a Simpsons and DC character mashups. And so I told him I wanted one with Psycho Pirate. And I told him,
Yeah.
Psycho Pirate Sideshow Bob. So I get there, and he did this great picture of Sideshow Bob as a pirate. And it was awesome. I was like, yeah, great. And then like the next show that he did, that the Comic Geek Speak guys put on, I said, I asked for another one. I said, I don't know if you remember last time, I asked you, and he actually did a Sideshow Bob as Psycho Pirates.
Cool.
Nice.
Cool. Yeah, Dave is a monster at commissions. One of our reward tiers for Corridor was a commission slots with Dave, and we sold out of them in an hour.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
And then he also, for my wedding, I commissioned him to do a picture of me and my wife as the American Gothic, the couple.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
And
cool.
in front of the barn that we got, it was like an octagonal barn we got married in. So he did that. So.
Oh, that's neat.
And then
that's cool.
He did a picture of my sister-in-law's greyhounds. So.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I've gone to to him many times and he's well worth the price.
Totally.
Nice.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. He honestly, I think Dave should be better known in comics, and I'm really hoping this is the year that he really breaks out. Speaking of G.I. Joe comics, he's doing this Iron Fist series coming up with Larry Hama writing it. And I hope a lot more people get to see how great his work is. Yeah.
And the same with Rafer. I met him also and then ran into him a couple times at the New York Comic Con and Baltimore Con. So
cool.
And we've been in touch, to trying to set up an interview, couple times, but yeah, he's a great guy too. So
yeah, Rafer's awesome. I met Rafer through Dave actually, and we've all been friends ever since. Yeah.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense since they were both in the Comic Geek Speak community. So
yeah, and I think that might be how I first met Dave as well. Now that I think about it, I occasionally listened to that show back in like 2008, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I heard either Dave was on it or he was on Around Comics, maybe. And that's how I got familiar with him. And then I met him at San Diego that summer.
Yeah, very nice guy. And like you said, he should be, more in demand than he probably is.
Absolutely. And, anybody who's interested in this magazine, check out our cover. Like the cover by Dave alone is, to me, like he just perfectly nailed the atmosphere that we're looking to create with this thing.
Yeah.
Give me 1 second and I'll bring it up. There we go. That looks like it. Yep. There it is.
Yeah. So basically, we told Dave what we were doing in terms of like the themes and the voice of the project. and the only other real direction was just like, maybe think about doing it as like a 1-point perspective or 2-point perspective type thing to give the corridor feeling. And this is what he gave us. I mean, it was pretty much the loose drawing is what you see right here.
We didn't give him any sort of like really any sort of direction at all. We were just like, hey, this is what it's about, and maybe play, like Christian said, play with perspective. And he just like showed us this, and we were just immediately just like, yeah, that's perfect. Let's keep going. I love it.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Kickstarter. This is your first Kickstarter. How's it going for you so far?
It's going good. I think Christian's done a Kickstarter in the past for other comic projects. I've never done a Kickstarter at all, so this is all brand new for me. And it's going well. We've learned a lot, and we're funding at a pretty good rate. We've got a week to go. Well, 8 days to go, so a little over a week to go. And yeah, I think especially considering we decided to do this during like, a crazy election, we're in a pretty good spot. So
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, if we did this again, like next year or at any point next year, I would only assume it would just be easier because we wouldn't have to basically take one whole week of the campaign and just throw it into the garbage because of the campaign, or I'm sorry, because of the election.
Yeah.
So
more than a week at this point, but yeah, it's been. I've done 3 Kickstarters before for comics projects, but I do them under my personal Kickstarter profile. So this is the 4th one that I've done, and it is definitely the most difficult one. We've got a lot of uphill problems with marketing and promotions, just because everybody's talking about right now is the election. So it's been a little bit more difficult to get folks' attention.
Yeah. So what are you guys offering those who back your project?
Well, Dave, you want to take that one?
Yeah, sure. We're offering, oh my gosh, we're offering so many different things, but basically a lot of the special reward packages are kind of focusing on an artist. So, we might offer like a book or something that an author has done, along with, obviously our first issue of Corridor and a print of the lovely cover by Dave. If it's someone who's a little more, in the illustration realm, we might offer like some prints that they have done and that they have maybe already had, and we can kind of basically buy it from them and then throw it into like a package and offer that. But we're kind of like trying to showcase each artist or / contributor with a tier or a reward package. If there is something that they've already created that we can actually get our hands on. And then in the case of Dave, he's been so awesome to offer up, like one-of-a-kind drawings for people and things like that. And those, as we discussed earlier, they just like flew off automatically. We're just gone, and we were like, wow, okay, awesome. Let's just have Dave do like 40 drawings for us, and we'll be funded in like 6 hours. So there's a large variety of things we're offering. But yeah, Christian, do you have anything else to add to that?
I think what we should really mention is that the magazine itself, the print version of the magazine, is going to be different from a lot of things that you hold in your hand that you would expect from like a quote horror comics anthology. It's 96 pages, and we're printing it oversized at 10 by 13. So it's going to have the look and feel of like a European comics album. And we're working with a number of different printers to come up with some other options. They might be stretch goals if we go over our funding goal. Ideas of like, finishes or special kinds of inks or paper, things like that we might be able to apply to the final product. But yeah, basically the rewards fall into either the digital or physical version of the magazine. And then, as Dave said, there are bundles that are associated with some of the various creators. So they're offering some of their other works, and you can get the magazine plus like 1 or 2 books by these creators. Dave and Rafer both have options like that. Karina does, J.M. Dragunis, others, Marie Enger. Then there are the original art tiers. So people are offering up either original art that they've already done, or they're selling the work that they're doing specifically for the magazine. And we've done a couple of those already, and we should have at least 1 more coming out before the end of the campaign.
Now, Christian, I think I saw your name up here in the list. Are you doing a story or doing something for the magazine?
Yeah, actually, I'm even though I'm mainly a comics person, I'm doing a short story in the magazine, and
Okay.
the short story that I wrote is available now to anybody, not just backers, anybody. If you go into our updates, there is an update where we talk about this short story and we want to show a proof of concept, and we released it on Halloween to sort of show off, hey, this is what you could get from the magazine. So it's a like 5,000 word short horror story by myself, and then it includes art by Brandon Daniels and an illustration by Dave Jordan that's colored by Marie Anger.
Very nice.
Yeah, right there. Happy Halloween.
So you said that I believe I heard you say that you this is just the first of many. Assuming that this gets funded, right?
Yeah, that's the hope. We, depending on the publishing schedule, depending on the funding, we're going to have to plan on a publishing schedule. So what we'd love to do is to have it be a quarterly magazine that also has a multimedia component with a website, possibly podcast versions of some of the short stories. And in fact, interview segments or panels, very much like we're doing with you right now, with the contributors or other horror creators. In fact, we've thought a little bit about doing something like StreamYard or Crowdcast as part of the campaign. So yeah, that's the like pie in the sky dream. But what we want to figure out first is if we can just fund a single issue. And then if there's enough of an audience for that, and there's even more room and we raise more money than our goal, then that's great. We'll be able to hit the ground running going into a second issue.
Right.
So is there, I know we covered a lot. Is there anything that that maybe I didn't ask about that that you wanted to, that you didn't say already that you wanted to mention?
I think
you've pretty well.
Yeah, I think we
ahead.
did cover everything, but I do want to one of our big things to just reiterate, and something that we just kind of constantly try to harp on is, one of the things we want to accomplish with Corridor is to really properly pay the artists and the writers what they're worth, and create a magazine that is allows them to express themselves the way that they feel like they can. We want to do as little editing as possible, and really allow them just total creative freedom. And we've gotten a lot of good feedback from our contributors regarding that aspect of it in general. Just excitement to be valued, and excitement to be able to just, they don't have anything holding them back, no restraints, which, as sometimes for an artist that's kind of like a problem. But I think, given the fact that, we are, the only thing that we're kind of trying to, hold on the guide rails is really just the brand and the voice. But aside from that, we're just like, hey, just give us the weirdest stuff you can possibly come up with, and we're down, we're down to publish it. So I think I just wanted to reiterate that, but also say that is one of the most exciting things about this project so far. And
again, like some of the updates for this campaign have just essentially been essays that I've written about things that are important to us for the publishing mission of this thing. And one of those was about creator rights and payments. We don't need to go too deep into it here, but I think, as most people who would be watching or listening to this know, comics creators especially, but also prose writers and illustrators, are horrifically undervalued in the publishing industry. And they're just very often not paid what their time is worth. And even if they are paid what their time is worth, then their creative rights are taken, and they don't own the things that they're creating. So that, as a creator myself, that was something that was really important that we build into this. We even went to the point, I noticed you had our lawyer as a guest on your show. Gamal Hennessy
Oh yeah.
wrote a contract up for us. We commissioned him to help us put together a contract for this. And I think it was different than most other contracts in that, like, we were trying to come up with ways in order to benefit the contributors as much as we could. And that's honestly one of the reasons why our funding goal is a lot higher than most anthologies like this. Most of the anthologies you see on Kickstarter don't really pay that great of a rate. And we wanted to do the opposite. You know, we really wanted people to feel empowered to do their best work on this. I also think that it's probably worth mentioning that the voice of Corridor is it's a little bit more specific than just horror. We're leaning a lot more toward what some people call weird fiction. And the idea with that is that we really want it to be, well, the shorthand is that it's more David Lynch and less Friday the 13th. That's the slogan that I give, but it's horror anyways. But I think the idea here is we want it to be strange. We want the world that people are encountering to sort of look familiar, but get them to rethink their own lives and the world around them. And specifically right now, I think it's really, really important for horror stories to help us to cope and work through our collective fears, of which it seems we have many right now, as we've learned in the last year. There's plenty to process through horror stories.
Yeah. No, totally. I completely agree with you. Just like you said, the weird strangeness, and we want it to be something that you know, it invokes curiosity. You know, it pulls you in. It doesn't look almost like Dave's cover. You know, it's not something where you're like, I am definitely not going down that road. The characters in that illustration are willingly, you know, heading down this path because there's something that they need to discover, and it might be dark and scary, but they're willing to go there. And I think that that's kind of the voice we want to have for Corridor.
So how about you guys, if you guys want to do like one last pitch, and if you want to give social media links along with that, then I think that will we can wrap this up. And I want to thank you. So here, there we go. And I think while we were talking, I think I saw the ticker go up. So that's always a good thing.
Great. Nice. Love it. Yeah, that's part of the problem with doing Kickstarters is you just sit there obsessively watching that ticker for 30 days. Yeah. So again, like I think like the three-pronged pitch for the magazine is that it is a publication that blends horror, science fiction, and fantasy together, but it's primarily focused on the weird. It's a publishing space that we want to bring together not just comics, but also prose short fiction and essays about these topics, and fine art or spot illustrations. And our mission statement is creator-centric. We really want to make sure that creators are valued and not taken advantage of through this project. The Corridor is not designed to be an IP farm. We just want to help get really good stories out there.
And what about social media?
Let's see. We are at Corridor Pubs on Facebook. Oh, sorry, on Twitter. And on Instagram and Facebook, it's Corridor Publications.
Right.
Unfortunately, Twitter wouldn't allow us to have Corridor Publications. I learned the hard way that there's a limit on characters for handles.
So that means in the future we will have to open up a bar that's called Corridor.
Corridor Pubs. Yeah, that's
right.
That's how we'll really make our money.
That's exactly right.
A branded chain of bars.
The only thing is we have to find a bar that has a tunnel long enough to,
They're all in abandoned subway stations.
That's great.
Well, if you need a home brewer, then to brew you up some special beers, then talk to me.
Oh, you're the guy.
Yeah,
okay,
you're on board. I don't even drink, so I wouldn't know what to sell.
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys for joining me this evening, and best of luck with in this last week of your Kickstarter campaign. Best, like I say, I with the the talent roster that you have, I would see no reason why you shouldn't make it, because you got some. Yeah, fingers crossed. And if you guys do end up doing a second issue, then you want to come back and talk about it, then you're more than welcome, and always welcome here. So, and
that would be great. Thanks, Chad.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, Chad. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Well,
thanks so much for having us tonight too.
Oh no, not
Yeah,
a problem. Again, there's with so many projects out there, only certain ones kind of catch my attention, and because of who you guys are working with, it caught my attention, and I want to see those guys be successful. I want to see you guys be successful.
Totally. Actually, I should mention two last things before we leave. I'm sorry. One is that when we first launched, I saw somebody refer to our lineup as a murderer's row of talent, which I really liked. That was perfect. But second, regarding Rafer Roberts, one thing that's important about his contribution to Corridor is he's ending his long-running independent comic Plastic Farm in the first issue of Corridor.
Oh, really?
So if there's people out there who've read Plastic Farm and are wondering how it ends, Corridor #1 is going to be the place where you find out.
Oh, definitely have to check that out then. All right. Well, you guys have a good evening and stay safe and stay healthy. And, well, if you ever need anything, I'd be glad to help you guys any way I can.
Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you so much, Chad. Yeah.
All right. Bye.
Bye.